Morning, Army of Thalia. Got 10 seconds on that countdown clock, but I realized I have to change one other thing real quick that I forgot to change. There we go. All right, hello everyone. My name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site exclusively for legacy death and taxes. And today that is exactly what we're going to be playing. Yeah, I'm glad you like the haircut. It was way too long. It was my plan to do this much earlier, but you know, life gets in the way sometimes of all those little things you want to be doing. So today's stream was originally scheduled to be Stoneblade, and then I got a message from the donor asking if I would switch it to a D&T stream, so I did. So I'm playing with Josh Wiley's deck list from, oh geez, was that Columbus? Columbus sounds right. He wrote an article for me, I should know this. Yeah. So Josh Wiley top forward the team open in Columbus with this deck list. My donor, Felchmaster 9000, wanted to see this deck list in action. So, working from home, when you can, you do. All right, so this is a D&T deck. Most of you who are on this channel probably have seen me play it before, so I'm just going to highlight the things that are different from what I've been doing. Number one, I'm just running more basic planes and fewer of these flex lands. So instead of like Cavern, Horizon, Canopy, Caracas, I just have a bunch more planes just because I like the stability. This is going to be geared slightly better against some of your blue decks with the Cavernous Souls, except Miracle because they have back to basics. It's kind of a wash there. And Horizon Canopy is nice when the games go really long against things like Miracles and Grixis Control. The other thing that's a little bit different is mostly the sideboard. Like a lot of the flex slots are the same here. Although I've been messing around with Hallowed Spirit Keeper. The sideboard has a lot of things that I'm not playing right now. So if I were to highlight the differences, my sideboard is something like 7 cards different from this one. I've been off of more Graveyard Hate and been more on Chalice of the Void recently. And alright, well I should just like pull up one of these. So like my current sideboard like has these 7 cards gearing for more fair matchups rather than like specifically for Black Red Reanimator and Dredge. So whereas this deck is really heavy on Graveyard Hate. So like there's 6 pieces of Graveyard Hate, and I've been skimping more and more and more on Graveyard Hate. We'll see whether or not the Rise of Dredge actually like causes me to have to go back to playing more of this sort of stuff. But I'm not entirely sure how many people are actually willing to switch to Dredge, especially for paper tournaments. Online, it's kind of whatever, because Dredge is like 100 ticks or something stupid like that, so anyone can play that very, very easily. So the other thing that's here is a Sword of War and Peace, which is a card very near and dear to my heart, one of my absolute pet cards, although I've been playing Walking Ballista over it recently. I don't really have too much else to say about this deck list. Oh, okay, this is a great question, Jazzy. Is Serra Avenger really that much on the out? So Serra Avenger's like really good against Delver, but it's really bad against Grixis control because they just have like Baleful Strix to gum up the board, and really like the overwhelming presence of Baleful Strix in this metagame is what is pushing Serra Avenger out. Coupled with the fact that Bitter Blossom is seeing more play and that just like chump blocks it forever, Mirran Crusader is just like one of the best like generic beater slots right now. Like I think Mirran Crusader followed by maybe Hallowed Spirit Keeper are probably your best flex slot beaters. So Ling, we never actually got Experimental Frenzy into play. We didn't draw it when I was playing against Grixis Control. I might need to like just have a stream sometime where I test that. Like specifically just sit down and play some matches versus someone playing... Oh, dang it. I have a bunch of things to change as a streamer. And sometimes I forget some of them. Alright, Josh Wiley, D&T. Thank you. Blazing Pandora, yeah, I think that you pick one of a Ballista or a Sword of War and Peace, not both. Conceptually, I'm very interested in Experimental Frenzy as a card, though, more generally. I think that card has the potential to do some very, very broken things, and I've been hearing some absolutely awesome things about it in Vintage. I heard it's also decent in Standard, but I don't really follow that, so I can neither confirm nor deny. And Army of Thalia, thank you for the bits. I missed that a minute or two ago. Oh, God. Yeah, Experimental Frenzy plus top would be disgusting. Alright, this hand's pretty sweet. I think my opponent plays Red Prison. They don't chalice me on one. Nope, never mind. Mistakes were made. Well, that sounds fun. Force Pitch Jace. Probably playing against Miracles then. Experimental Frenzy. It's a 4-mana red enchantment. So I think I just want to lead on Ether Vial without playing my land. I want to know whether or not this resolves before I make my next choice. It does not. So now that my opponent has tapped out, and they can't just use their mana to plow this on my turn, I think I'm fine with casting that without Cavern. I'm pretty likely to put Cavern on Human later, but I might put it on Flicker Wisp for a turn first. And not playing the Cavern means that if my opponent just slams back to basics on this turn for some reason, that I don't just, like, lose this land without value. Alright. So time for a classic play. Cast the Flicker Wisp. Essentially reduce its mana cost by 1 by targeting one of your lands. And then wasteland your opponent to make them sad. Alright, opponent down to 2 cards plus their draw for the turn. I'm definitely pulling ahead on this one. Alright, that was a shuffle with Ponder. So what I'm going to do here is play out a second threat and then double port my opponent for the rest of this game. Oh. What did my opponent get? My opponent got Batterskull. Really good to know that my opponent isn't playing Miracles, though. So I have 7 on board. If... I guess I'm going to need to play out this other Crusader. My opponent probably isn't playing things like Supreme Verdict that I'm going to need to worry about. I'm going to need to, like, get one more attack in with this Crusader at some point. So note, my opponent is not dead here. So my opponent can just block with Stoneforge to effectively gain 4 life and then produce a Batterskull. So if I attack in with everything, my opponent chumps, produces Batterskull. They go to 1. They can attack back for 5. But that's probably better than holding back 1 Crusader to block in case they have a Sword of Plowshares that they cannot deploy this turn. Oh yeah, that's real good. No, Brightling's not a fad. That card's very, very powerful. The metagame is just very black right now, so it's not a good time to be playing a Brightling. But the card is extremely powerful. Like, it's awesome against Delver decks, against Red Prison, against Miracles. Alright, so we're playing against Stoneblade. Probably want my Council's Judgment. Maybe this. Maybe this. Maybe these. I usually cut all my swords to plowshares. They don't really have targets that you want to remove. You just kind of want to stop their equipment and then move on. Hey, hey, morning. Palace Jailer is awkward against a True Name Nemesis deck. Can probably drop a Crusader or two since they're pretty bad against True Name Nemesis, but they do have First Strike, so there's something to that. Not 100% sure on Cataclysm in this matchup. I've had mixed findings about it. I'm going to keep this hand. This hand isn't exactly stellar. Like, I really want an Aether Vial or a Mom in this matchup, but I have a solid hand that I don't necessarily want to just throw back. There's so many draws that make it better, and like Gideon is a very powerful card in this if it goes long. Oh geez, did my opponent really keep a one-lander again? Or I shouldn't say again because I don't know for sure that they kept a one-lander last time. But all right, there is back to basics. And not having a relic order in this list sucks. Love, love, love to tutor one of those up right now. Wow, second Force of Will, pitch Snapcaster. So Gideon is going to be awesome versus this Batterskull. But I think I want to gum up the board a little bit more first, because if I just like Gideon 0, create a 2/2, and then my opponent like Swords to Plowshares the token, they can just kill Gideon immediately, and that's not really what I want to happen this game. Ninjutsu Kid, I will make a note of that, and I'll ask and see if anything is going to happen as far as support. I don't know the answer to that. I just don't know the logistics of how easy it is to make that work on other things. Destroy target tap creature. I'm playing around a Swords to Plowshares. If I just jam the Gideon and 0, and my opponent has Swords to Plowshares, I lose the Gideon. Whereas if I play it out this way, I can sort of like play around removal and actually let the Gideon take over the game. I'm really surprised that my opponent would be willing to trade Flicker Wisp for Stoneforge here. Because then if I just like take their Germ token off the table... Wow. Super surprised by that attack. Like they're light on mana, so if I get rid of this Germ, they can't get it back right now. Yeah, I'm gonna accept that trade. Now I expect my mom to get Swords to Plowshares because my opponent already like tapped mana for that. Oh, Farish, thank you. The haircut was long overdue. Uh, I had tried to go like earlier in the week, and it just didn't happen with everything else that I had going on. Like I stopped in, but they just did not have time to like get me in. It was gonna be like half an hour plus wait, and I wasn't about that. Well, that's devastating. Well, if my opponent doesn't have Counterspell, this will probably be pretty sweet. I could have ported my opponent off of this, but I'd rather keep them off of another Stoneforge to get a Jitte. Although maybe I'm supposed to just ride the value train as hard as I can here. They've already shown me they don't have Counterspell, so... Oh, I'm going to Flicker the Germ later. Getting the second Flicker Wisp is basically free. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Yes, you can use Caracas to bounce Gideon, so that sort of thing does work. So I'm debating right now whether or not I want to just like bounce the germ, or whether or not I just want to like block with Recruiter and then Flicker Wisp the Recruiter to get another Flicker Wisp, and I kind of think that's what I want to do. I don't really want to dedicate throw too many creatures into the board right now. Like now that we're in post sideboard games, to a certain extent, I do need to care about um, a sweeper. Ooh, neat. Let's see if this resolves. That's fine. So now my opponent has lost a land, so bouncing and redeploying Batterskull would be very, very costly. Hey, now I still have a creature. Man, I'm glad I played around Supreme Verdict. Yeah, the new Cardboard Live extension looks awesome. All right, so I can Gideon plus crash in for 9, put my opponent to 1, and then if they don't have a land, I'm just absolutely golden basically can't lose the game. There is the possibility that my opponent could just like have a Swords to Plowshares or something like that if I do animate Gideon, though. But I could just bounce Gideon if that happens. Puts me in a slightly awkward spot because I don't have the land to redeploy Gideon right now. And I also kind of need to leave this Thalia back in case my opponent has the land, because I'll just like fall apart if they do. So I think I can only attack with Revoker. All right. Yeah, that's more or less what I wanted to see. And again, kind of need to hold back this Thalia to keep my opponent off of potential Jitte counters. My aggression's largely halted anyway. Alright, Thalia not really what I'm looking to see here. They had a Jitte in hand. So if I swung with the Thalia, they could just go like land, Jitte, equip, and wreck me. Okay, my Sword of War and Peace is gone, right? Yeah, that's fine. A different piece of equipment will still be quite good. So I'm going to need to prevent my opponent from getting Jitte counters this turn, which probably means blocking with my Thalia and legend ruling my own Thalia. That means in order to make progress, I need to cast this Stoneforge Mystic, which is going to suck if they have Counterspell. So I get to fog Jitte counters for 1 turn, but after that I'm in trouble. I don't have enough lands to like put Batterskull onto Thalia to make it just like much bigger than the opposing Batterskull. I'm out of Flicker Wisps to draw to. I think I'm going to get my own Batterskull so that if I draw another land, which is more likely than any other one individual card, I can like start doing the like put in Batterskull bounce thing and invalidate the opposing attacks. That's rough. Did opponent like brainstorm or something that I missed? No. Not after playing that Stoneforge. Opponent, you could have just done this end of turn. You can still tap the Stoneforge to do that. So this might be a spot where I just want to make a Gideon emblem and then just like gang block the Stoneforge, get it off the table, and take minimal losses. But just making a knight probably accomplishes similar things. So this is a situation where I block with literally everything so that 1 removal spell on my Germ still results in the Stoneforge being dead. If my opponent has double removal spell and removes Thalia and then Germ, so be it. But I can't play around this at this stage. Disenchant was a beating. But, like, this is why we blocked with absolutely, literally everything. This Sanctum Prelate's pretty good. So, I'm going to go ahead and pump Gideon, crash in, and then pass the turn. Next turn, I'll Gideon Emblem, and then put in Sanctum Prelate. I don't want to just put it in and trade it for the 2 Jitte counters right now. Punishing. Opponent's draws are just absolutely disgusting here. This is game 2 and I'm up. This is like the most disgusting series of rips my opponent could have. Like that disenchant into the Council's Judgment into the Jace. But I'm really not dead yet. Like a Council's Judgment off the top, and this game turns around. Like the Jace is really beatable right now. Once my opponent taps out for Batterskull and puts that into play, I also get a window where like Cataclysm becomes insane. This is probably the point of no return. Yeah, this is why I never play a list without Leonid Relic Order. Alright, do you want to play Jailer against your opponent who has True Name Nemesis? I don't. We're playing against Stoneblade, not Miracles. This seems like a poor brainstorm to me, but I don't know what's going on with their hand. Like, using that brainstorm there means that I have the freedom to port them, whereas I did not previously. This is our first round. That's a touch late, but whatever. Alright, I have 4 pieces of equipment. So all I need is another, like, true white source in order to get rid of this back to basics and probably take over the game. Council's judgment is awkward. I'm going to put in a batter skull, give them something that they might want to get rid of. I just don't want them getting rid of my bile. And still take the vial. Which I'm hoping doesn't mean that they have something like disenchant. Attacking with both of these, expecting to trade batter skull for batter skull here. Well, that's unfortunate. Probably can't beat that. My opponent just equips to Stoneforge here and goes to town. And then I can't equip back. Well, that was a gross stop deck. Note, I'm not dead. Life sucks, but I'm not dead. In before my opponent's last spell is fucking Path to Exile or some shit. Come on! Come on! I mean, opponents' draws have been absolutely exceptional. both games. Now I'm just dead on board. Note that if this was a basic plains, I probably could have won this game. This is why I'm like absolutely maxing out on basic lands right now. Alright, I need to run to the restroom. I will be right back. Alright, sorry about the delay. I'm back. So Scudo, I got a message from them last night asking to change the deck list to D&T over Stoneblade, but I didn't have time to change all my graphics this morning. I kind of woke up late. So it is what it is. It does have stone, it does have blades. Didn't matter that game, but, you know, it is what it is. So, like, just talking about the deck list for a minute, like, a lot of people thought I was kind of crazy for, like, dropping a Caracas and dropping all the Flexot lands just to play Plains. But that match was a great example of, like, why I'm doing that. There's a lot of Wasteland and a lot of back-to-basics running around right now, and I really don't want to be vulnerable to those. Like, I had so many awesome tools for the matchup in my hand, but I lost the ability to leverage all of the advantage I had once Back to Basics hit play. And you wouldn't think that Back to Basics is a good card against D&T just like looking at it, but you're wrong. Like the deck has so many mana sinks and so much to do with its mana, from like porting and equipping and like recruitering for things and then like redeploying the things that you recruiter, that when you cut them off of a couple of mana sources, it's really devastating. You know, it's kind of a like the shoe is on the other foot sort of situation. So that's why I'm running a bunch of planes. Like I can understand wanting to like try other things in your flex slots, but I don't think that this is the time to do so. Great. This hand sucks, and I think we're playing against Grix's control. And I want to play, so this is not going to help with my curve. We'll bottom that. All right, at least the top of the library cooperated there, so that's nice. In before I get himmed taking prelate and sword. Nope. Okay, well, taking sword means they might not have Gulligan's Command. So that's nice. My opponent has not cantripped yet. I'm going to go ahead and name one. If my opponent had Culligan's Command, they'd just leave me with the sword so they could get the Stoneforge and the sword and like 4 mana worth of my time in one go. So I think it's probably correct to name this. It might just be a wash, and it might have been correct to just like take 1 damage with Horizon Canopy last turn to play. Ooh! Finish that thought, to play around like the rest of my shit getting hemmed. I will offer this trade. Mentor is terrifying, even with a prelate on 1. It's a problem. Because, like, with my prelate on 1, I can't actually answer this. Yeah, so we're just playing against some sort of Esper Mentor deck, presumably with, like, Lingering Souls. Well, once Sanctum Prelate's gone, the Mentor is not a problem anymore. So that's nice. This is kind of nice. Them fetching a Tundra here means that I can continue to port them off of white. I think it was correct to attack with both there. Interesting. Alright, so if I attack with Crusader, it probably just gets chumped. Which is fine. I don't like any of my other attacks. So I'm really hoping not to see, like, Jason to one-drop removal spell or something like that. Oh, geez. Second Mentor. Scary. So if I attack with Crusader, it can be traded away, but then Nathalia is still pretty good. So, like, my opponent can block with, like, Mentor, Snap, Monk, if they want, but it's pretty likely they'll just chump with a Monk again, because if they can play any spell, they can produce 2 more chump blockers for the following turns. Hey Ken, welcome. Oh my god, giving me both Mentors? Well, that seems incorrect to me, but I don't know their hand. That was indeed weird. Deal. Deal. Man, how much better would it be if you had anything? What? This leaves them dead on board. This attack leaves them dead on board if they don't have a follow-up creature. I do not understand this. So I'm trying to decide if my opponent actually has a Snapcaster Mage or if they're bad. I can't tell. Okay, so let's say they have a Snapcaster Mage. Both Snapcaster Mages trade for these two bodies. Then I have Mirren Crusader versus a Monk token, but my opponent's 1-drops are live. Is that fine? That's probably fine unless they, like, rip Jace. Yeah. Alright. Opponent confirmed terrible. Alright, so we're playing against like an Esper Stoneblade deck. Again, not having Leona Relic Order in the deck, biting us in the butt. I mean, like, it's Esper Mentor, but, like, it's pretty likely there's Stoneforge is in there, right? It's going to be, like, Stoneforges, Snaps, a bunch of counter spells. Well, so, like, I was going to board for Stoneblade, but if he's just going to be, like, Esper Mentor pile, then I'll board differently. Alright. So, I want War and Peace, Prelate, Council's Judgment. Those I'm going to want. I'm probably going to trim some number of Crusaders. Probably trim... I'll probably trim Palace Jailer. And then, like, maybe one Thalia on the draw. Nah, Thalia is still pretty good against Mentor. Maybe I'll just gut all the Crusaders. Yeah, I don't understand where my opponent was coming from with a lot of their plays that game. I wish I had a little bit more information on, like, what exact list my opponent was playing so I could make some better sideboarding decisions. I'm probably close, but I might be a card or two off. Ooh, this one's bad. This hand is very bad. Like, I have lands and spells, but I don't do anything until turn 3, and I'd be living off the top. That being said, I still probably keep it, because if I can play a 2-drop, this hand is functional. I think the opponent is worse than your hand, so it's a keep. Alright, Bear with 2 guns. I'll agree with that. Like, the ability to play Magic is just more important than having a good hand. I'm going to bottom that. I'm going to look for something to do in the first couple of turns. No, the 5 wouldn't need to be that nuts. Like, Plains, Ether Vial, Port, 2 random cards for my deck would be awesome. Alright, well, we got the best possible draw off the top, so instantly rewarded. Alright, so we lost the best card from our hand, which is a little unfortunate. But now my opponent doesn't have white. And I guess one argument towards like keeping the initial hand was that it was good against him to draw. Ha ha! It's a well-known fact that the best D&T players palm vials at the top of their deck, on the draw. I'm gonna tap this, see if I can get them to like brainstorm or something. Nope. I think I still just keep porting them. Like, I could play Recruiter and then, like, hold up Flicker Wisp for the Recruiter if my opponent tries to remove it. But just, like, keeping them off casting a Mentor is probably better than anything else. Snapcaster Mage, target him. Okay. Nice Snapcaster. Oh, opponent's just F6'd. Nice. Jailer's out, unfortunately. I guess I'll just take a Sanctum Prelate and shut them off with 1-drops. opponent is motoing under the influence. Council's judgment. I will respond to that. So this is a sweet play. I win no matter what. Like, if my opponent takes this prelate off the table, I just get another one out of my deck on my turn. Man, I really wish I had the third recruiter. Like, the third recruiter in the sideboard's so good, because in this situation I would like just recruiter for it instead of for another Sanctum Prelate. Swords the recruiter plays around a Flicker Wisp, but, you know, I could have done that once I tapped my vial, but whatever. Oh yeah, bully hat is on. I mean, you say I can't bully a potato, but what am I doing right now? I'm bullying a potato. I'm going to continue to port my opponent off of black to just protect my hand from him to Turok. If my opponent jaces, I just, like, vial in the recruiter in response, and it's not that big of a deal, and then I just kill the jace with Flicker Wisp and proceed on like everything's hunky-dory. Yes, there is a quote function. So it is exclamation mark, add quote as one word, and then a space, and then whatever you want to add. That's not at the top of my list for t-shirt designs, but I'll keep it in mind. We did a good job of being a bully there. Yeah, double porting white would be fine there. Like, it stops Council's Judgment and Verdict. Kind of like... constraining my opponent's black, though, since that's been my game plan for the last couple of turns. But I guess since my opponent's on, like, that's the very last turn, maybe it's correct to just switch to white there. I had a Sanctum Prelate on 1, which meant that my opponent couldn't really do anything. Alright, so fuck lands that aren't basic planes. This hand is insane if this is a basic planes. Now this hand is, like, questionable. Hey, you know what I can't do with this Cavernous Souls? Put in my fucking equipment uncounterably. Fuck. God, please remove my Stoneforge Mystic. I can't do anything else with this. Thank you. Thank you. Ah! Ah! This card is so fucking unplayable. I'm never going to cast this Flicker Wisp. And then my opponent's just gonna, like, fucking cast it back to basics, and I'm gonna lose this game on the spot. No, the first cavern was not okay either. Neat, my opponent has a click. Hey, a white source. Too bad I can't cast this Flicker Wisp still. Alright, so if my opponent resolves a back to basics, I'm going to lose this game. If my opponent has back to basics, I can't keep them off of it for the rest of the game. So, like, I'm just going to prepare my body for back to basics, and if it happens, it happens. I think my best play is still to port my opponent for the next turn. Just, like, port them off of their white source and play Stoneforge Mystic, and prepare to hit with Sword of Fire and Ice if everything works. Which I don't expect. But if. I like it when my opponent taps out. That makes me feel good. Of course, it will just make the back to basics all the more brutal, should it actually occur. Note, I'm doing this all before playing a land in case I draw plains. I'll still kill the click. Yep, the reason to play D&T is because it's an incredibly solid mana base. It is not vulnerable to things like Wasteland. Alright, so how am I doing this? Yeah, opponent's sequencing there was really weird. So I equip probably with these two lands with the intention of like playing Thalia and Wastelanding. Did opponent shuffle with that ponder? My opponent did not shuffle with the ponder. There's a possibility there's a terminus on top of their library. I have to respect that. So I can respect that either by playing... God, I would love to just be able to flicker with Peer. To have two different, like, lethal threats. But I can't. I should probably put this Vial in play in case my opponent terminuses. Because these Flicker Wisps are very essential. Like, I can't cast them. So because I can't cast them, I need to get this Vial active. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is play my Vial. Ooh, which got a Force. Neat. Now I'll just play out a Mom. If my opponent terminuses and takes these two cards, I don't really care. I'll still have, like, Thalia Bounce be super annoying. And if my opponent has Assorted Supply Shares, they need to fire it off now on the Stoneforge Mystic or they die. But if they do that, then I have Mother of Runes to attack, and they still die. Alright. 100% would not have shown my opponent my hand there, because now I know that they have a second Vendilion click, and so I should aggressively play around it, but whatever. I mean, either way, Cavern of Souls and Horizon Canopy and the third Caracas suck against them, right? So a lot of times against Miracles, I board down one land. But since I have like Gideons and Cataclysms, and I'm probably going to end up keeping my Jailer, I probably won't do that. Probably board down most of my moms. There also might be some argument for just like playing a one of random surgical extraction to extract accumulated knowledge or a Snapcaster target. I don't think so, but it's close. I haven't done any testing of like Graveyard Hate versus Miracles in like the post AK world. Hey, you know, it'd be a real shame if we played way too many copies of Caracas in our deck and it came back to bite us in the ass. Wouldn't it? Well, fuck that land. I smell blood. I smell blood in the water. I am Mr. Shark. Yeah, so it's actually like double that size, and I just have it put up right now. It's actually quite nice. It's pretty. Great. Now my Thalias suck. Oh, we got a Jace. Awesome. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times I've viled in a fairy. So probably not. God, again, like, it's so frustrating that this isn't a Plains. Because then I just, like, slam this here on one and feel great about it. But I don't want to blow this Caracas yet. I'd rather blow that on, like, a turn where I need to equip Sword of War and Peace. I also really wish I had Leon in Relic Order in the deck, because I would consider tutoring that up blind right here, just to, like, try to beat a back to basics. So I think I'm just going to recruiter for a recruiter and just, like, take the body. I'm hoping to just continue to draw lands so that I can get the Sword of War and Peace equipped. Am I getting Blood Moon? Yeah. Well, luckily, we draw like a master. So, interesting situation. Now my Thalia can't be bounced by my opponent. So, there's merit to just, like, playing a Thalia here and trying to make my opponent stumble. But I'd quite like to connect with Sword of War and Peace next turn. So I'm just going to play out a Recruiter. If I had a third Recruiter, I would search for the third Recruiter here. Since I don't, I'm just going to get a Revoker in case my opponent gets a Jace. Blood Moon is considerably worse, yes. If paid, I would play Vintage on stream. But this channel is almost exclusively Legacy content. But I definitely would be fine with playing some Vintage. Of note, though, most of my Vintage experience is with the same sorts of decks. So I'm used to playing, like, Shops, the White Trash, the various Hate Bears deck. That's basically what I know how to play. So my Vintage range is not large. Javier, there's this thing called layers that you can look into that answers what's going on with that. But it's a little complicated, so I don't think I want to go into it right now. The short version is that it isn't going to affect things that are sort of before this dash here. I don't think I want to commit another creature in case of, like, Blind Terminus. But I'm fine with, like, throwing this Vial out here and saying to my opponent, like, hey, use your EE to answer this at some point. Otherwise, I might randomly get value. Neat. Now I get to know about this ahead of time. That's awesome. So if my opponent Terminuses, I've got a pretty good setup for afterwards. So I think I'm actually just going to name one here. I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock with board as is. maybe just keeping them off of cantrips is better than keeping them off of blind Supreme Verdict. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Snapcaster AK to draw a card. That feels pretty bad. I don't know why this happened now instead of mid-combat, but... Hey, yeah. Unsure. Man, it'd be really great if, say, this card was not in my deck. So, interesting spot here. If... I guess it's not that interesting. So my opponent could double block here to get rid of Athalia, but they choose not to. If I remove their Snapcaster, I'm very, very much presenting lethal next turn. So note they don't get their Deuter back because of Containment Priest. It just like essentially turns Flicker Wisp into a nuke. Alright folks, I need 30 seconds to grab some more water before my next round. I can actually probably just jump in the queue. I think boarding Containment Priest versus D&T is pretty fine. So, the Containment Priest can give you a lot of free win for when the D&T player has kept a hand on the Strength of Vile, but otherwise their hand's really awkward. So it's actually fine because you get a lot of free wins for doing it. But when you get to the mid to late game, a lot of times the Containment Priests are awkward because they can just, like, cast their stuff and not care that much about it, or start removing your stuff with Flicker Wisps. So, like, it depends on the deck, but, like, from something like a Miracles deck or a Stoneblade deck, I really do like Containment Priest as a sideboard card there. Alright, we're playing against a good player. My opponent's probably on Miracles. This is just like control morning, I guess. So we've got an Ether Vial, so we keep this hand. "100% on Miracles, huh?" Alright, my opponent says first league with this. We're so dead. We're so dead. Unmask target me. Take my vial. I'm sad. Oh. Yes. I like this. Now if my opponent exhumes, I can, like, get some value out of it. No, we're just throwing the vial away here, because the way we win this game is not by, like, waiting one more turn to put a vial into play, but it's kind of like luck sacking into a Thalia off the top of the deck and preventing my opponent from doing anything. So my opponent already would have 2 mana if I port them, so I can't actually take them off of anything that matters. So we're going to try to get a clock. In good news, the like ridiculous 6-ish sideboard cards that we have for Graveyard Hate are going to be real good here. Flashback Faithless Looting? Yep. Deal. Cabal Therapy's fine. Super okay with this Batterskull being gone, if that's what my opponent names. Yeah. So this is great for me, because my game plan actually was not to put the Batterskull into play, but actually to cast the Mirror Crusader and then put the sword on it to try to one-shot my opponent. Hell yeah! Alright, first time I've been happy to draw one of those in this entire league. Aww. Double port's really good. Alright, so Reanimate's off the table. This is the same as porting, so might as well do it. Well, it's actually better than porting if my opponent does, like, a ritual or something. So, like, my opponent would need to go... I don't know. Somehow produce an Eleshnorn. I guess they could just, like, reanimate, or, like, exhume a Chancellor, and then they buy a turn. but I would get Mother of Runes back. Okay, is that lethal immediately? It's not lethal immediately, but it does mean that the Mirran Crusader has to be blocked. The Mirran Crusader is blocked, I kill their Chancellor, and they take 2 more damage. Alright. I guess we'll space this out over 1 more turn. So next turn I'll go Jitte equip on Crusader, swing in with the team. And present lethal. Or I guess it's not lethal. But it puts my opponent into a bind. Alright, so we'll probably board in most of our sideboard. So Fairy, Prelate, Council's Judgment, this. We'll probably go out with most or all of the Stoneforge Mystic package. I'll probably trim a land. The game doesn't really go long enough where you need a ton of land. Or when it does, you're just winning by a landslide. And I'll probably just cut some generic beaters. Could also trim a Flicker Wisp over a Crusader as well. It's kind of hard to find spots where Flicker Wisp is like actively good in this matchup. They happen, but it's usually when you're pretty far ahead anyway. Oh yeah, I own D&T, have been playing it for years and years and years. I have just about every possible variation on the deck in paper. Alright, keeping no landers is a bad idea, right? Right? I'm gonna mulligan this one. Yeah. This is essentially a 4-card hand that has Thalia and 3 lands. These Flicker Wisps aren't going to be castable anytime soon. It can just, like, bounce a Grizzlebrand if my opponent goes all in on one of those. So, like, I guess that's good enough to keep. I don't expect to win this one. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's even better now that my opponent like fetched Badlands on one, because I can just like wasteland them, and then potentially make my Thalia plan even better. My opponent's in a thinking spot. Oh. Note, I'm playing the Rashadan port to not show Caracas for as long as possible. I know it keeps me from casting Path to Exile at, instant speed on my opponent's turn there. That's a stellar draw. So, under normal circumstances, if your opponent has a low amount of cards in hand and they don't have a creature in the graveyard yet, you name one with Sanctum Prelate to keep them from like using a looting spell or an entomb to put a creature into the graveyard. But then a lot of times, once they already have either 7 cards, so if they go up to an 8th, they can just discard a creature, or they already have a creature in graveyard, you name 2 to shut off more of their reanimation spells. That's what I'm going to go ahead and do here, because I also have this Path to Exile. Between Path to Exile and Caracas, I can pretty much answer any creature that would come into play. Archetype of Endurance being the one that I can't play around currently. So, like, this is why I didn't just name 1, right? No, my opponent's not really likely to cast any 1-drops this game that matter, right? Like, because I have the ability to just, like, port them, and I can aggressively get them out of reanimate range over the course of 2 turns, I think it is just correct to put it on 2. Yeah, so, like, I'm a teacher by trade, so I'm kind of, like, used to explaining things and used to taking a step back and, like, thinking, like, okay, what do people need to hear to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing? So I feel like my commentary is often very useful. Yeah, that was rough. Like, your first Faithless Looting, both games were a little bit unfortunate, I feel, but my draws also lined up pretty well. And you didn't just, like, nut me either game. Well, looks like it's Reanimator time again, unless he's dredging. I've heard rumors that he's been trying Dredge out. Hey, you know what would be like real great if this could actually cast fucking Swords to Plowshares. What the fuck is this? What are you doing? Please don't be on elves. Okay, thank God. Yep, if this was a Plains, I would Swords to Plowshares this turn over literally anything else. I hope this stream has discouraged everyone from putting Cavern of Souls into your D&T deck. I hope we've learned that today. Don't do that. It's bad. Only villains do that. Not even one. No, really, I do think it is conceptually bad. I think it is bad in the metagame right now. And, like, as this match has shown, there's severe weaknesses to playing that card. So it's possible I should just, like, aggressively attack my opponent's mana this turn. Again, I really wish I could, like, Swords to Plowshares and Wasteland this turn. But Cavern. I still kind of like the idea of just keeping my opponent off balance. I'll probably just win this game by connecting with Stoneforge Mystic for Jitte. I'm just going to play towards that. So, like, to talk about this list specifically, in the sideboard, there's Cataclysm, 2 Councils, Judgments, and 2 Gideons as white cards. And, like, trying to play those while some of your white sources don't actually cast them is such a bad idea. That'll probably be a Pride Mage. Well, that's gross. Hey, you know what would be great? If I could both activate Stoneforge Mystic and Swords to Plowshares in the same turn. Sorry, have to keep beating the dead horse here. But it's kind of a big deal. note, I'm not going to block here. If my opponent has Knight of Autumn or Green Sun Zenith for Knight of Autumn, it's super punished if I just like put in the Batter Skull and try to get a freebie. Hey, you know what would be really great if I could have played another basic so that I could both put in Batter Skull and remove this right now? That would be stellar. Something, something, great. Something, something, multiple white cards in one turn, something, something. So Eric paused in my upkeep with waiting to pay costs, so I kind of think there's something, so I don't really want to go for just, like, throw out the Jitte this turn and, like, get totally wrecked. Maybe I do. So, like, if I go for Jitte on Stoneforge, instead of Jitte on Batterskull, then I still gain some life. No, I can't use, like, double Swords to Plowshares later. I don't want to do this. I think at this point I just play out my Jitte. Swords to Plowshares the mom. And then if my opponent casts Scrib Ranger in the end step, I'll Wasteland Riot Arbor. Sylvan Library is probably doing way more work than is evident from our side of the table. Well, he can probably just play a Knight of the Reliquary. That'll end up being pretty big. Hey, you know it'd be really great if I could cast my Flicker Wisp to reset my Batter Skull because I had double white mana. Oh god. Yeah. If I had a white land, I'd be in such good shape right now. I could also just flicker this germ to keep the board empty, in addition to just like flickering my own duder. I'm not bitter. Yes, this stream has been brought to you by my sponsors, Cardboard Live and Card Hoarder, as well as Felchmaster 9000, who donated to see this deck. Special shoutouts to Josh Willey, who played Cavern in his deck. Now we know Cavern's bad. So, like, on the note of Cardboard Live, while Eric figures out his library, the extension has been updated recently. Ah, well, fuck me. As soon as he finds a wasteland, this land's gone. And Dryad Arbor gets to chump block forever. Rough. Ugh. Alright, do I want to equip Thalia and swing in? Probably. So my website, Thraben University, is the best source if you specifically care about death and taxes. I have some recommended reading there that links to some nice articles. A couple of them by BBD that are just like very good generic theory articles. Alright, my opponent getting a Jete is bad. I mean, if you're at a paper tournament where you expect to play against the tiered decks, I think it's bad. Yeah, and then like Julian's website, itsjulian.com, Bryant Cook's website, theepicstorm.com are both very, very good as well. And then you'll see occasional articles elsewhere that are useful. I'm going to want to remove this anyway, so I think I'll go ahead and do it now. Well, this is a little late. So if I play Flicker Wisp, I play it and I blink my Batter Skull. My opponent could then attack in with Dryad Arbor, pump it to trade with my Batter Skull. I'm probably just supposed to trade for the Dryad Arbor, then tick up my Vial to 3. Or, port the Dryad Arbor, and then tick my Vial up. Yeah, but then I'd let my opponent get more lands out of their deck, which I don't really think is something I want to happen. Like, ThrabenU Excavator is a card that I need to get off of the table ASAP. Otherwise, the Wastelands will lock me out of the game. Like, these would both be basics in my deck. They're not protected here. Alright, so 3 Flicker Wisps is pretty sweet. I can use 1 to reset my Batter Skull. And then 1 during their turn to somehow fuck up whatever they're doing. I have options in that regard. God, I hope he just, loosely removes a token, a Jisse counter right now to kill my Flicker Wisp. Why do you care about Channel Fireball's top 100 Magic cards? Seems like the sort of thing that would be kind of an arbitrary list anyway. Oh, I assume the library was just absolutely stellar. Alright. Let's see what Eric does here. So there's a couple of lines. Some of them involve him, killing his own Dryad Arbor with Jitte. So, for example, he could, block with Dryad Arbor, use the Jitte counter to kill his own Dryad Arbor, drawing his knight and preventing me from gaining life. It doesn't look like that's what's happening. So one of the big things I don't know is I don't know whether or not he has something like a Maze of Ith in deck. And that's very important knowledge. Because if he has Maze of Ith, I should just remove his Knight right now. But most of the Maverick lists these days don't have Maze of Ith. All right. Gonna kill his Dryad Arbor. Gonna Flicker Wisp out his Knight. And then I'm gonna Port. This presents lethal in the air, and it allows my opponent to, like, not under any circumstances get in an attack with something that could gain life this turn. There are things that can prevent lethal, like Scrib Ranger, for example. But I more or less like my position. Alright, so that'll probably be a Knight of Autumn. Which isn't actually good enough. You're dead on board, Eric. Yeah, and then he realized it. Alright, so I'm going to make the pile of things that we'll consider, and we're probably not going to actually end up boarding in all of these cards. So from this main deck, I don't want my Thalias, and I don't want my Sanctum Prelate. Basically everything else is fine. So the, like, 100% ins are these. And then these are kind of the questionable things. All of these are fine. Like, just turning the Knight of the Reliquaries into smaller creatures and shutting off, like, the Ramunap Excavator recursion of stuff is very important. And it's just kind of a question of, like, do I want to play these more than anything else that's over here already? And that's the trickier part. So, like, it's possible I should trim, like, the 4th piece of equipment and play one more piece of removal. I wouldn't hate that. It's also possible that on the draw, Gideon's slow. So like maybe on the draw, I want to play these Path to Exiles. Do you think you rebuild faster than Maverick? A lot of the situations where I see me casting Cataclysm end poorly for me. My opponent keeps a Knight of the Reliquary and funnels like 10 lands into their graveyard, and then the Knight's huge. Or they keep Mana Dork plus land versus me just keeping a land. I don't think I conceptually like Cataclysm here. Oh, hey, hey. Everyone thought it was a little weird that you were playing with Windswept Heath. I don't know why my opponent kept his hand. With no turn 1 play, no ability to answer an Ether Vial, and a very weak turn 2 play, I don't see the apparent upside of this hand. So Jitte is probably pretty good here. There's an argument for just like snagging a Sword of War and piece right here, right now, and just planning on putting that on Mirran Crusader and taking over the game. But Jitte should do approximately the same thing. I see. So my plan is probably going to be just like power through my opponent's Jitte. Okay, so this turn is me just playing out a threat that I expect to die. As far as the cardboard live question goes, I don't know the answer to that question at this time. I can look into it. That Wasteland was about the best possible draw for my opponent. That means I can't just jitte right back. Again, hypothetical, but if this Caracas was like Caracas 3 versus Plains, being able to play that out would have been huge here. I don't know that that one would have been, you know, Caracas 3. So I won't harp on it too much, but it's the same sort of scenario again. Just gonna hold everything back here. This game is not about damage. This game is about equipment supremacy. My opponent's gonna have plenty of things to think about. Like, if they pro-white this Scavenging Ooze again and I have, like, Batter Skull in hand, it's devastating. Alright, so they're going for the same line again. So now my opponent has to decide what to do with their Jitte counters. And the answer probably has to be remove Mirran Crusader. If they have spot removal, then they can remove both moms and try to go that route. Or if they have Knight of Autumn, they can blow up Stoneforge Mystic here. And, like, try to get me to put in the Jitte. It's a little bit... Alright, target Crusader, yep. Target Crusader again, also yep. Knight of the Reliquary. Alright, that's a big boy. But now I get to kill the mom, and life's pretty good for me. I do think I just want to clean up the mom this turn, and then use Council's Judgment to get rid of their Jitte, instead of the other way around. Because my opponent is very unlikely to be able to get through multiple noms holding the ground. I could move the Jitte somewhere else, but I basically want to have it on the Flicker Wisp, probably for the rest of the game. So I'm not going to move that. This also just like bluffs a Batterskull activation. Four mana is a lot of mana. This is probably Green Sun for a Knight of Autumn. So I can blow up the Knight of Autumn, which in turn will be eaten by the Scavenging Ooze. Oh, that's nuts. See if my opponent has a Maze of Ith here. Ooh, a Gaia's Cradle. Neat. But I don't think particularly helpful at this stage of the game. So in my opponent's second main phase, I'll probably be flickering my Stoneforge Mystic to get Sword of War and Peace. But maybe Batterskull, who knows? Alright, I'm not going to have any responses to this anytime soon. Also note, this is game 2. My opponent's down by about 3 minutes on clock. Win by timeout is also starting to be very viable as well. please just blow up my vial here. Yeah, this vial's probably past the point where it's useful. I don't even think I'll save it. Alright, so my opponent's on a 1-turn clock. They can eat 1 creature from graveyards currently. They have 1... There was a redraw off of Horizon Canopy there that my opponent missed. Not that I really know like what 1 card gets them out of that anyway, but it's worth mentioning. Okay, so why don't we do sort of a little recap here. So this was a 4-1 today. Pretty happy with that, but the deck list did not feel good, right? So I want these 4 cards to just be more basic lands. I think that was just very clear over the course of today as we got like wastelanded and back to basics and like awkward sequences of draws that were purely because of the mana base. I think it was very bad. I think that not having Leonin Relic Border in the sideboard was a mistake. There were multiple times where I really wanted the 3rd Recruiter that I was playing. The 6 pieces of Graveyard Hate did not actually matter in the red-black Reanimator matchup. We played against Stefanogs because we had, like, the hands we won against black-red Reanimator were on the back of, like, Mana Denial and his Faithless Lootings not being insane. So I just don't think this list was terribly, terribly awesome. Yeah, 6 pieces is rude. So, like, if we contrast this with what I've been playing, I have greater stability of mana base, a weaker game against black-red Reanimator, but a stronger mid-range game with the things like the Hallowed Spirit Keepers and the additional Jailer. I really missed the versatility of this Leonin Relic Order here. The Chalices were kind of whatever in this league. I was fine without them in the matchups because, like, in the spots where I would have had Chalices, instead I had, like, the 2nd Prelate, the Sword of War and Peace, and the Cataclysm, which were also just, like, fine cards there. And the Sword of War and Peace was good against Maverick in the final round. But as a whole, I was not impressed by this deck list. That being said, remember that this deck list did get top 4 of the recent Team Open, so there is something to it. You know, I've pointed out what I think are the deck building flaws. Remember, Josh Willey also did an article for my site where he talked about his deck list and his experience and some of the changes that he wanted to make. So if you're interested to see, like, well, why did he register this deck, you can see his side of the story on my website. All right, so a couple more things before I go here. Number 1, Monday's stream is going to be awesome. I'm going to be playing with this, like, crazy, weird Enchantress deck that doesn't win with the traditional Enchantress means. Instead, it tries to recycle a bunch of enchantments again and again and again and again in order to like grind value off of like copying your good enchantments with enter the battlefield effects. That one's going to be neat. And then on Wednesday, I'll be playing some Bug Depths with Negator 77, Tom Hepp, who has been one of the people working with that archetype for a very, very long time. So I'm looking forward to that. No, not the mono green Storm deck. I don't think I have the deck list nicely typed up, but I think I have like a crappy Microsoft Word version that I can show you. So it plays like some cartouches, some of the trials to recycle them, some of the enchantresses. It's a really weird deck. Estrid's Invocation is a commander card that's not on Magic Online yet, so I'll be playing Copy Enchantment in that slot instead. But the idea is you use some powerful enchantments like Reality Acid, and you just try to keep copying them again and again and again and again for value. I don't know whether or not this deck's going to be good, but I can pretty much guarantee it's going to be an entertaining stream where everyone's like, what the hell are you playing? So I'm going to be looking for that. I don't know if there are any. There might be some, but all of them definitely aren't there yet. They'll be coming with a patch in, I believe it's December. I'm pretty sure it's December or like late November or something like that. All right, so again, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site dedicated to legacy, death, and taxes. You can catch me streaming every Monday and Wednesday night at about 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and then every Saturday morning, time slightly variable depending on what I've got going on that day. If you enjoyed this content today, please follow my channel if you're not already. And if you really enjoyed this and you want to support me, consider doing a donation deck list or subscribing to my channel or supporting me in some other way. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day here, and I'm going to send you over to someone else who's playing some Legacy. Cheers, folks. Goodbye, and hopefully see you Monday for Enchantress.